Tyranitar has monstrous stats, an amazing ability, and respectable coverage options, and yet word on the street is that Tyranitar is washed up. Well, I'm here to tell you that the word is mostly correct, but there is still a slim place for T-Tar in 2025. In isolation, Tyranitar is outclassed offensively by King Gambit and defensively by Ting Lu. So its niche is basically just being the best Sandstorm setter in the tier. You want Sandstream, and you can pair it with Smooth Rock to keep the weather up longer, or you can bulk out your T-Tar with Leftovers or Assault Vest. Knockoff and Stealth Rock are Tyranitar's most common moves. The weirdest statistic on this page is Ice Beam, which is on 63% of Tyranitar's movesets. But even with only 95 base special attack, it makes sense for the tier. Great Tusk, Gliscor, and Landorus Therian are incredibly common in OU. They all love to switch into T-Tar, and they all have worse special defense than physical defense. So Ice Beam ends up being the best option. Tyranitar matches up really well against special attackers in OU, thanks to the 50% boost it gets to its special defense in Sand. It can switch into Shadow Balls and Dark Pulses with ease, it can switch into Sludge Bombs, although it doesn't really like being poisoned, and it can even be a rare check to the notorious Kyurem. The problem is, there are so many fighting and ground type attackers in OU. This makes T-Tar very sad. Pretty much every single team is going to have at least one of Gliscor, Ogerpon, Great Tusk, and Zamazenta, and probably multiple, so Tyranitar needs a lot of support to flourish. Sand feels like half an archetype in Gen 9. Excadrill is the only really usable abuser, and Tyranitar needs support from Water Ghost and Fairy types, which all take chip damage from Sand. But if you're not playing a Sand team, there's not really a point in bringing T-Tar instead of, say, King Gambit. So we're playing Sand, and we're going to try to make it work. Excadrill is Tyranitar's best friend, most common teammate, and lover. Excadrill is strong, blazing fast with Sand Rush, and it can easily sweep through teams if it finds a turn to Swords Dance. Thing is, there are lots of offensive threats in Gen 9 that can sweep through teams if they get a turn to set up, and Excadrill doesn't particularly stand out. Even with Tyranitar's support, it still gets walled by Landorus and Skarmory and Zapdos. But it is good and it is worth bringing if you're bringing Tyranitar. Corviknight and Skarmory are also great teammates. They don't take chip damage from Sandstorm, they cover the physical weakness of Tyranitar really nicely, and they give you a much needed ground immunity. Ghosts like Dragapult are really nice as well, because they give you a switch for fighting type moves. Beyond that, you're kind of just constructing a balanced team. Ting Lu and King Gambit are basically just Tyranitar but better, so there aren't very many teams that want both. But can you see why Iron Treads' usage goes down 90% with Tyranitar? It took me a minute, because I thought, surely a ground steel type with good attack and a speed boosting ability would be a great partner for Tyranitar, no? And then I looked over at Excadrill. Yeah, been there, done that. You don't need both. Here are 3 tips for using Tyranitar in battle. 1. Scout for fighting type coverage. Tyranitar will infect your opponent with the overwhelming urge to click Focus Blast, Close Combat, and High Jump Kick, if they have them. If you think they might be running a fighting type coverage move, use the opportunity to switch into a Ghost type. You won't get a second chance if Tyranitar stays in and takes a High Jump Kick. 2. Make the most of your boosted SPDF. Sandstorm is a free Assault Vest for Rock types, and it stacks with actual Assault Vest to make your Tyranitars truly, specially immortal. Now, Rock is a terrible defensive type, so terrestrializing your Tyranitar is always tempting. Just remember that if you terrestrialize, you'll take chip damage from your own Sandstorm, and you'll lose the special defense boost, so you'll take more damage from neutral moves. 3. Play like a balanced team, rather than a typical weather team. At the moment, Rain, Sun, and Aurora Veil teams all care an awful lot about preserving their weather setters and making the most of every single turn. Keeping Sand up only really matters for Excadrill, and sometimes your other teammates don't even want it. Because Sand lacks much variety in its abusers, you're kind of just playing a balanced team with a desert aesthetic. Overall, Tyranitar is really tough to use in OU, but boy have I watched enough BKC videos to want desperately to make it work. It gets a B- rank on the fringes of viability. Metas can change though, so if you think you have an innovation that will bring this fallen titan back to its place at the top, all that's left is to give Tyranitar a try for yourselves. And if losing in Gen 9 with Tyranitar starts to get you down, go and play a few games of Advance to detox. BKC is the fountain from which all Tyranitar knowledge floweth, so go subscribe to him, and thanks for watching everybody.